Football Manager has been missing from the Xbox console since Football Manager 2008, and with good reason. Those versions weren't very good if you were lucky enough to play them back in the day. But in recent years, Sports Interactive have been dipping their toes back in the console waters. We've seen versions on the Nintendo Switch and Google Stadia in recent years. Plus, the last couple of versions of Football Manager have appeared as Windows-only games within the Xbox Game Pass ecosystem. But with the launch of the Xbox Series X and Series S, we also see the return of Football Manager to the main Xbox consoles with the Football Manager 2021 Xbox Edition. And in this video, we're going to have a look at it and see if it's worth getting. Hello folks, and welcome to my first look at Football Manager 2021 Xbox Edition. I'm Kev. I have just loaded up the game and we are going to have a look through to see how it's different from both the main versions of Football Manager and FM Touch, which is also released today for PC, tablets, etc., etc. Video on that to appear on the channel very soon. On that note, I have got first look videos of all the different versions of Football Manager this year, and I also release daily Football Manager Let's Plays, guides, experiments. If you can think of a type of FM content, it probably appears on this channel with new videos coming out every day. So if you are interested in getting involved in Football Manager, or you just like this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel, turn your notifications on, and you won't miss out on any of those videos as they appear over the coming weeks and months, including a good 2-3 weeks of Football Manager 2021 content from PC, which is already on the channel, so you can get a real feel for the new game. But this is the Xbox Edition. Full disclosure, I am playing on PC. I actually made the decision to not get an Xbox Series X. I cancelled my pre-order because I have a Windows gaming PC and Xbox now exists as a platform across all of them. So I can play the Xbox version on my PC. But the first thing I'm noticing is it doesn't seem to want to let me use my Xbox controller to do it. So it's not going to be exactly the same experience you would get on a console, but the structure of the game is going to be the same. And if you've ever played the Switch version that uses the shoulder buttons and the trigger buttons on the controller to help you navigate around the system, it is a very similar control system to that on PC, and it is quite intuitive after a while. And you can also just plug a USB keyboard into your Xbox to play it with some more sensible controls anyway. But we are going to be getting up and running like this rather than pulling my Xbox One out and connecting it all up. I thought you'd rather see the video because the game's going to be the game regardless. And there are multiple different versions of the game that you can play. So you've got career mode, fantasy draft, online, which is online across the Xbox platform. So you could play online with the Xbox version on PC with a friend who's got the Xbox One version and another friend who's got the Xbox Series X version. It's really clever the way it works across the Xbox ecosystem. You can do Creator Club, challenges, and versus mode. So under challenges, it's got the same set of challenges that you normally get in the FM Touch version of the game. So they're all in there. If you want to do a challenge, we're not interested in a challenge. We want to set up a new career and have a look to see how it all works. And I'm going to do Leicester because that's who I've been managing the longest on the PC version of the game, and I want to see a direct comparison of how it works. So we're going to manage Leicester, and we're going to let the game get set up. Now, depending on what Xbox you've got, it will have different limits as to how many countries and leagues you can have loaded. Because I'm playing on PC, it'll allow me to add up to 10 nations. I think if you're on an Xbox Series X, that gives you the most, weirdly, even more than PC. Whereas if you're down on an original Xbox One, you're going to have far fewer options to add leagues. But I think 10 nations is probably going to be more than enough. And we'll add a couple of little extra ones on to show you how we can do it. But to be honest, in the interest of fast processing for the video, I'm just going to have England loaded. But you can have more. In fact, it says at the bottom there, as 5 or fewer nations have been selected, this career will be compatible with the Xbox One family of consoles. So if I add in more than 5, we get a warning at the bottom saying, due to selecting more than 5 nations, this career will not be compatible with the Xbox One family of consoles. So if you are planning on playing it on your Xbox One as well as your PC, with your Series X or S, or you're just planning on cross-playing with somebody or multiplayering with them, if you want to involve an Xbox One at any point in the process, limit yourself to 5 nations. But let's start things up. managing in England as Leicester. See how quickly the game starts up compared to the PC. I'd like to think it's nice and quick. I've seen some screenshots of this version of the game. I've had no prior access to the game or anything. I'm seeing it for the first time along with you. So these are going to be my reactions to the game as we see it. But from what I've seen from the screenshots, it looks like it is more optimized for basically sitting on your sofa with a controller in your hand and playing it on the telly, which obviously it needs to be. It's got my date of birth and name, but not I don't know where it's pulled them from, but it's not got my face or any other bits. Let's randomize my face. I mean, need we randomize any further? That will do. Love a soul patch. And here I am as the new manager of Leicester. Look how happy I am to be the new manager of Leicester. I'm just going to try with the controller again. No, nothing happening with the controller, which is a little bit of a disappointment. I would quite like to be able to just sit back in my chair and play it on the controller and get the full-on TV experience. But let's just jump through all these screens. These are all very familiar screens, but what we're looking to do is get into the meat of the game and see how it compares to other versions. Now, first of all, because I'm playing on a 4K monitor, everything looks tiny. I'm just going to check if we can increase the zoom, which obviously if you are playing on a TV sat quite far away from your screen, you're probably going to want to zoom in a little bit more, and you are able to do that on here. You can also turn off the match sounds, which obviously you want to do. There you go. We zoomed in a little bit. That looks a little bit more sensible now. Contracts, do they look the same? It looks like we've got the same. It looks exactly like the full version of the game at the moment. Obviously, it is going to be a little bit pared down, similar to FM Touch, but contract negotiations, it just feels like I'm playing the main game. It's got the induction stuff all integrated nicely within it, which is cool. And if you don't want to do them, presumably you can just exit out of them there, which is nice. But that's contract stuff. Tactics, we got the tactics induction, but let's jump into the tactics screen, see how the tactics screen differs. So tactics induction, I don't want to do the induction. Right, this is where it clearly is a little bit different as the PC version compared to the Xbox version. I'm just going to grab a screenshot and just show you how this screen looks different if you're playing on console. So it does optimize for what you're playing on by the looks of it, which is great, but for the purposes of this video, not ideal for me to show you it. So I don't know how well I can zoom in on this, but that is a screenshot of presumably what it looks like on console. You can see it's got the console controls on there as well. If I zoomed in on the wrong section now, where's it gone? So you can see you got the console controls up in the corners, and it's just filling the screen a little bit more, and then you can move it in and out by pressing on those buttons, using the trigger buttons and the shoulder buttons, as I was saying before. Very similar to the Switch control system. I think what I'll try and do later in the week is dust off my actual Xbox One. Like I say, don't have a Series X or Series S, but I'll try and dust off the Xbox One and show you the controls, maybe in a follow-up video, if you want to see that. I mean, like I say, you're going to see the bulk of the game just in this video and see what its limitations are or aren't, but it's very, very much based on FM Touch, looking at it. Let's accept that. So if we go back into that tactics screen, you can actually have multiple tactics. Looking at this, we have multiple tactics. You can have multiple tactics loaded. That's something that wasn't in FM Touch previously. It might be in it this year. I've not looked at FM Touch this year either. I'm going to be doing that video after this one. It looks like we can load up multiple tactics, which we were never able to do before. There's no tactical familiarity, similar to how FM Touch has always been. But we do have the option to have 3 different tactics loaded for ease of just switching between them. Going into the squad view, so we have the squad induction. Again, everything nice and front and center. Right, this screen is different. We finally found a screen that's different from the main game. This one it's just nicely pared down, console optimized. I mean, if we zoom in a little bit further to try and emulate what it'd be like if you were on a big TV sat far away from it, you can see when you're zoomed in, it does start to look a little bit more console-y. So depending on the resolution of what you're playing on, it is going to automatically adjust how the screens look. So again, if we go back to that tactics screen, you can see we've got much more of it taken up with the actual formation thing on there. But we're just going to zoom back out just to get it back to something a little bit more normal for the purposes of the video. We jump back into the dressing room, or the boardroom even, for whatever reason we've got in there. And so you've got your basic attribute stuff nicely color-coded better than it is on the main game, dare I say. That stands out a lot better to me. Looking into the reports and stuff, it all looks about right. Team report is there, and again, it has an induction, and will tell you where your strengths and weaknesses are, so you know what you're going to have to go and do in the transfer market. We've got another induction here for your staff. So staff set up the same way it's been set up on FM Touch for a number of years now. So you're not going to have gazillions of staff, but you do have staff in key areas, and similar to how you can on the main game, but much more pared down, much more simplified. The Xbox and the Touch versions, you can just very quickly decide, right, who's going to do what. Backroom staff will do my training, but I'm going to do my transfers, and you just literally click on what you want to be doing on there, and you can hire and fire staff as you can in the main game. Training, boom, go into training. Again, it's the simplified Touch version of training, which for me, I much prefer this version of training compared to the one in the main game. The one in the main game is a little bit over the top for me. I tend to just leave it for my assistant manager, but on this version, you can take control of it if you want to, and decide what kind of training you want to be doing. So we're in pre-season, I might want to do physical training, but I'm just going to leave that to my assistant manager and let him keep control of that. And you still get your training performance reports, all that kind of stuff. These screens look pretty much the same as the main game. Scouting, again, has a built-in induction to make it nice and easy to sort of learn the game as you go. You've got your player search screen. What we don't have is a scouted player tab. Oh, there you go. There's a scouted player tab. It's just in a slightly different place. Transfers, transfer history, all in the right place, which is good. A simplified version of the club info screen with key information and all that kind of stuff. Now, obviously, in the one of the big differences with the Xbox version and the Touch versions on all devices is that you're not going to be able to mod and customize the game the way you can the main game. So obviously we're playing as Leicester here, so we have got the Leicester license, but you're not going to have the license to any other Premier League teams, the Premier League trophy, the fact it's called the Premier Division. That kind of stuff's not going to be changeable on the Xbox version. So if that's really important to you, you might want to be sticking to the PC version of the game. Club Vision stuff is within the game as well, as is finances and your development centre, where you can look into all of your youth and whatnot. I've hit continue there by mistake. It's got microtransactions in. We've got an injury, and you can purchase a magic sponge. Oh, see this stuff. I mean, it's been in Touch for years. It's been in the mobile version for years. I just hate it, but I get this. It's the nature of console gaming and mobile gaming and that kind of thing. But for $3.99, you can pay to make yourself unsackable. I guess you can get a golden magic sponge, they call it. Somewhere in here you've got a magic sponge. It doesn't even say how much. Where's the magic sponge? Am I just being thick? I can't see the magic sponge on there. But you can boost your bank balance. So for £4.98, you can add £200 million to your bank balance. And I guess there's various other bits that will drift in and out of that as time goes on. It looks like at the moment, magic sponge isn't purchasable. You can, for 99p, you can unlock a golden generation. The club will develop a crop of top prospects. You'll unlock a golden generation of players automatically if you win a domestic league with the squad, including at least 4 players who come through the ranks at the club after you took charge. So it's not an automatic golden generation. It's like a challenge that will give you a golden generation. Yeah, I'm not buying anything from the store. Right, the thing we're all here to see, we've had a look around the UI, and we know it's going to vary depending on what console or machine you're using it on, but they are all interchangeable cross-play. But let's have a look at what the match engine looks like. I'm going to assume it's exactly the same as the PC version, because the bulk of the game itself looks exactly like the PC version. Inductions being thrown at us left, right, and centre. We don't want to be doing any of them. We just want to get into a match. Press conference, I guess we should see what they're like. So press conferences don't have the new version of the press conference from FM21. This is very much the scaled back FM Touch version of press conferences that we've had in the more recent games. Yeah, I'm happy. Press conference done. This is what I love about FM Touch. It's much more simplified, a much more straightforward version of the game than what you get with the full version. If you're just looking for a quick game, then FM Touch is going to give you exactly that. You can get through your matches much faster, get through your seasons much faster. It certainly has its attractions if you're not able to dedicate as much time to the game as perhaps someone like I can. I'm just going to basically replicate very similar to the Leicester system that we've been using in the full version of the game for the last couple of weeks. And let's just see how it gets on, see how this works in the Xbox version of the match engine. So teams are warming up. And here we go. More tutorial stuff. The commentators are in place, so let's go to the match. Fair enough. Just talking you through how all that stuff works. And we're going to jump out of that. We've got our touchline tablet. Can we resize this? No. So that's interesting. This looks a little bit different to the... Okay, so we can click on that and make that pop up or go down again. It's slightly different to what it's like on the PC version. We can adjust the speeds and everything in-game the way we can on the PC version as well. Looks-wise, it looks very, very similar. I wouldn't immediately look at this and know that I was playing a different version of the game. Again, stuff like this is obviously going to vary depending on how good the machine you're playing on is. So if you're playing on an Xbox One, it's not going to look as good as if you're playing on an Xbox Series X. I hope that kind of thing is obvious, but obviously it is going to have an impact what you're playing it on, obviously, as you would expect. But it looks very, very similar. This, is it resizable here? It's not. This is identical to the main game. So all this new stuff in the match UI experience that they brought in this year, this has all been carried straight over. I like it. It looks like the full version of the game. It seems to play like the full version of the game. There's very little that you're not getting. Obviously, we didn't do a team talk on the way in. It's the little time-consuming bits that you don't do. So training's much easier. You don't have to do team talks. You don't have to do press conferences. That kind of stuff is taken out of the game to simplify it down. But it really just bring you back to a more traditional version of Football Manager. For those of us who've been playing this for years, it has a feel a lot more like those earlier versions of the game where you could sit there and churn out a season in an evening. Now, I'm not saying you can churn out a season in an evening on this version. I would suggest that's probably pushing it a little bit hard even for this version because there is more to it than on an old Championship Manager game. But certainly you're going to have less time just scrolling through data, scrolling through menus. It's more conducive to sitting on a sofa with a controller in hand and playing it on your big TV. Now, whether I would want to do that, I think for me, I probably wouldn't. It'd be very rare that I'd want to go and take it out of the desk experience. But obviously, if you're looking to buy it on the Xbox, you probably aren't buying it to sit and play it on a PC. You're more likely to want to be able to use it on your TV. And for that, it is going to customize down and work with your TV, similar to how the Switch version worked in previous years. So there's for $29.99, the retail price being less, the RRP is less than for the PC version. The RRP of the PC version, $39.99. The Xbox version, $29.99. It gets you a version you can play on PC and your Xbox. Cross-play between them, multiplayer within the Xbox ecosystem. And it looks like the full version of the game. We know it's not got all of those features in, but the stuff it's taken out is the stuff that is really fiddly. So for me, it's kept the core of the game in. It still feels like the game. It's reduced the price and it's made it available on a system that it wasn't available on before. And if you're sat there, if you're one of the people who wants to get into Football Manager but doesn't have a PC, but you do have an Xbox, you've now got a way into the game. I would still, having played the controller version on the Switch, I would still probably recommend if you've got a USB keyboard, use that because it is going to be a lot more comfortable to control with a little bit more at your disposal. Obviously, it's the kind of game that isn't perfect on a controller, although the progress they've made in recent years to improve it on the controller has been fantastic. So give it a go. It's a lot more comfortable than that FM 2008 that I talked about in the intro to this video. But for me, if you're looking for a way to play FM and don't have a PC, it's a no-brainer. You get the Xbox version if you've got an Xbox. If you've already got it on PC and you're wondering whether or not you should buy a second copy to be able to play it on your Xbox, I struggle to see why you would do that unless you really don't like playing on your laptop, or you've only got a desktop and you don't want to sit at your desk to play and you just want a more chilled version of the game. You want to sit there in your big comfy recliner chair on your big fancy telly. Then it makes sense. It's 30 quid. It's less than half the price of most games on the Xbox One, the Xbox Series X. So go for it. 30 quid. Why not? But if you're just going to get the Xbox version to sit and play it on your PC, you're probably better off with FM Touch, which is even cheaper still. And if you own the full version of Football Manager, FM Touch is included within the price anyway. So there's really no reason to get it if you're going to be playing on PC. Other, of course, then it will give you the option to play multiplayer with friends that you've got who might have an Xbox, which you can't do through the Steam or the Epic versions. But I think that just about covers my thoughts on the Xbox version of Football Manager 2021. I know the game is still going on, but if you want to see games of Football Manager 2021, there's plenty of them elsewhere on the channel. Let me know down in the comments section what you think of the Xbox version of the game. Are you planning on picking it up? If so, I'm really interested to know how you're planning on playing it. What are you playing it on? Are you buying it to play on a console, or are you buying it to play on PC, maybe with friends who've got it on console? But I really want to know. I'm really interested to see how this version does, because obviously as a Football Manager content creator, the best thing for me would be for this version to be super popular, the game to explode, and me have to go and get an Xbox Series X so I can do a series on this version of the game as well. I'm up for it if it becomes popular. So I'm interested in gauging at this stage how popular it's likely to be. So let me know that stuff down in the comments. And if you have enjoyed this video, please make sure you leave a nice big thumbs up on there for me. Subscribe to the channel for daily Football Manager videos. Thank you very much for watching.